Listen, if you're anything like me, you probably want to invest more money. You watch the videos, you feel motivated, but yet somehow at the end of the month, you've got nothing left over to put into the stock market. Now, trust me, I've been there, but since then, I've actually built a six-figure portfolio. I've bought my first rental property, and I'm in the process of hunting for my second one. Now, I didn't start some million-dollar business. No, I didn't win the lottery, but what I did was follow 8 simple money rules that have completely changed the game for me, and I think that you could probably take something away from them. Okay, so rule number 1 is auto-invest or it won't happen. You see, I used to tell myself that manual money management was a really good idea, that you could have insights into every single dollar, where it's going, how to track it, and you'd be really confident with your investments. Now, I would always tell myself that I'll just invest whatever's left over at the end of the month. And spoiler alert, there was never anything left at the end of the month to be invested. So the more and more I started doing this, the more and more I was discouraged until I implemented an auto invest feature. Now I have a predetermined list of things that I like to invest in. Mainly it's these ETFs that trace the stock market. And what happens is anytime I get my paycheck, instead of having to manually move money around, it automatically is going to take from my bank account, move it into my brokerage, and actually just automatically get invested. It's dollar cost averaging, it's investing for my future, and it's paying myself first and just being way more proactive. So now I don't even have to think about it. Now, rule number 2 is if you get a raise, you automatically raise how much you're investing as well. So I know that like for most companies, every year you kind of do a review, maybe you get a raise to keep up with inflation, or you're outperforming and you get a solid raise at your company. And things like this have happened to me in the past, where as soon as that happens, it's like my mind just goes to, oh, say I got a $10,000 raise, that means I can just spend $10,000 more. And instead of that, where the lifestyle creep really becomes an issue, you start thinking, oh, how much more can I invest? So now actually this year when I did get a raise, what ended up happening is I didn't change my lifestyle at all. I didn't buy new things, didn't go on some extravagant vacation. What I ended up doing was actually just raising the amount of money that I was investing into my portfolio. If you think about it, you were getting by on whatever your paycheck was before. The more you can delay the gratification of what that raise is going to do, pay yourself for the future and invest, it just is going to be so much better for you in the long run. And with this strategy, if you get something like a $10,000 raise and you're able to push it off a little bit further, maybe you're investing an extra 3, 5, maybe all of that $10,000 is then going into the stock market. So it just makes it a cheat code for growing your wealth. Now, rule number 3 is what I call no spend sprints. And this is pretty interesting because I used to be that person that would just bleed cash. I would go out to eat, go to bars, hang out with friends, and just spend left and right. And then again, realize that I didn't have a ton of money left over to invest. So then what I started doing is these no spend sprints. Usually it's about a week, a month that I really focus on, hey, I'm only going to be buying the essentials, rent, food, things like that. And it has made a huge difference with my finances. The one thing that gets challenging with this is when your friends are inviting you to do all these different things, you don't want to be that guy that always says no to everything without presenting an alternative. So if my friends try to get me to go out to the bars, or they try to hang out and go spend money, golfing, whatever it is, I might suggest something like, say, going to the beach, which is free for us, but still just as enjoyable. So just providing those alternatives is oftentimes going to help with those relationships. And you don't want to be that guy that just looks really, really cheap, especially like where it becomes challenging is when you're in a relationship and you want to go on dates and do these different things. If you're communicating that, it becomes much easier. Then you got more money and you can go back and invest more. So rule number 4, and this one is huge. I don't take on any new subscription services without cutting one that I've previously been using before. So for example, I got to the point where I was spending hundreds of dollars on all these different streaming services. You got things like YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, like all of these different streaming services that all offer somewhat of the same thing. And so what I ended up doing was realizing, hey, a lot of the shows kind of cycle on these subscription service sites. So if Stranger Things is coming out on Netflix and I really want to watch that, well, it's usually staggered from when something else is coming out on a different platform. I don't need them all at once. And what I found is it actually keeps me more engaged with the different platforms. And so when I want to get into my Netflix craze and binge watch all these different shows that are Netflix specific, super easy. By the time I'm fatigued through Netflix and I feel like there's nothing else to watch, well, hey, go ahead and cancel that, start up your Hulu subscription or whatever it is that you have, and you can go from there. There's so many different ways that I've used this, especially as a creator, where I have, the Adobe suite, just different tools that I use. All these AI subscriptions, it's like if you're not using it, you gotta cut it. and you got to make sure that you're staying on top of this stuff. So having something like a subscription tracker really helps this, and then you can just make sure that you're not overspending in those areas because it really adds up super fast. Okay, so rule number 5 is to simplify your investings. And what I mean by this is, well, I used to handpick select stocks, individual stocks that I really wanted to invest in. But I realized that there was so much time and energy I was spent trying to focus on looking at fundamentals and different stock analysis, trying to break it down and look for decent opportunities to buy stocks. As soon as I started buying into one, I'd see an opportunity somewhere else, or maybe I would buy into a stock and I would realize that it got to a price where I didn't want to keep investing in it. And it was honestly just so fatiguing to think about all the different things when it came to these stocks. So what I did was I decided to simplify my investing. When I go on these time periods where I don't want to be doing individual stock research and I don't want to worry too much about my investments, all I do is find ETFs. I love market tracing ETFs. Personally, I invest a bunch in VTI and SCHD. But what this does is it takes out the guesswork with stock picking. It just helps so much more stay consistent with your investments because you don't have to use any brain power whatsoever. You're automatically diversified. You don't really need to think too much about where your investments are going, and you can just put more money in because of it. Okay, now rule number 6 is to make investing easier than spending. And what I mean by this is I've actually deleted pretty much any app where I could go and buy things from my phone. I'm talking no more Amazon, no more Walmart, don't have the Best Buy application, don't have any of these things that make it easy for me to go and just make a purchase. That way when I'm doom scrolling at night and I find something that I like, well, I have to wait till I can get to my laptop to be able to make any sort of purchase. Now, this small added layer of friction between seeing something and buying something has probably saved me well over $10,000 since I've been doing this, just because I realized that in that time period between, I don't actually need whatever it is that I'm seeing. So this has been a huge help for me. It makes spending just far less accessible, and in return, it allows me to invest way more. Rule number 7 here is understanding that every dollar you spend today costs more in the future. And what I mean by this is if you spend $20 today, when you take into consideration compound interest and what would happen if you had invested that money instead, well, many years down the line, that $20 is now worth $80, $100, $200 and beyond. And so anytime that you go and you make a purchase, just know that future you is losing the opportunity for the compound growth of that investment. Now, there are definitely some situations and some people who are going to hate that mentality because you don't want to think of every purchase and get fatigued and feel stressed out about your future, but there are definitely purchases that we all make that have no real tangential benefit to us. And honestly, the money would be better used in other ways, like investing into the stock market. Plus, for me, I don't know about you, when I invest and I see that money go up in value, it makes me feel a lot better than say a, $10 ice cream that I eat and enjoy for like 2 minutes, and then I feel bad that I just ate this sugary sweet thing that's making me feel sick. Now my stomach hurts, and I'm going down a tangent that doesn't even matter here, but just know that money spent today costs more in the future. Okay, so rule number 8 is to focus on milestones and not splurges. I used to have all these big milestones that I'd want to hit, buy my first property, hit the 6 figures in that portfolio, whatever it is. And each time I kind of also wanted to reward myself when I hit that specific milestone. So maybe I wanted to buy a new watch or something to remember the moment by that I could then share and look back on in the future. What I realized is there's no real benefit to any of that stuff aside from just acquiring more crap that ended up in a drawer or not really even thinking much about in the future, versus if I just sat down and made a video or talked through how I was feeling in that particular moment. I mean, I documented the entire house series on my YouTube channel, and there's nothing I feel more proud of than some of those videos and looking back what I went through, versus having some sort of object that would signify whatever that is that I did at that time. And it just is way more meaningful in that way. So instead of spending more money, it just locks down that memory in a much more meaningful manner. Now listen, none of these rules are magic. You're not gonna wake up after doing these 8 things and have $100,000 in your portfolio. What this does is it maximizes your income today so that you can have a better future tomorrow. And if you really, really look at it and you're doing these things and you compound, you bring your own rules, you're continuing continuing to grow, but yet you're still struggling to save and invest more money. Well, it might be an income problem that you're having, and there's other solutions to get around that. Now, I'll talk about some of that stuff in the future here on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed if you aren't, and if you did take anything away from this video, leave a like, and also drop a comment on one money rule that you follow that you feel like completely changed the game for your finances. Thanks for checking out this video, guys, and have a great day.